It's not anything to be ashamed of to say, well, it kind of looks like that structure's worked quite well for the entire duration of mankind, and so maybe we mess with it at our peril.
You're hearing about family values from the childless and unmarried. Don't follow them.
The women have to stop blaming men for their sense of malaise or misery.
I didn't create you people to kill and torture and rape each other. I created you to be good to each other. I love the God who had a flood.
I was speaking with my wife last night, and she was frustrated as she was looking through her phone, looking at things like the Green New Deal, this new Equality Act that Congress is thinking of passing. Well, the House passed it. It won't get through the Senate or Trump, to be perfectly blunt. But they're still pushing that kind of legislation anyway. And she asked me a question. She said, how is it that we are electing politicians who are so contrary to the will of the people? And I stopped, and I really took a moment, and I was remembering an episode of Glenn Beck, of all people. And he was making a joke about President Obama's, the end of his presidency, where conservatives are going to be so fed up that they're going to literally elect anyone, like your Uncle Bob with a stain on his tie, and says, yeah, I'll take care of it, I'll do this. And, he was just lamenting the political state of a post-Obama era because of the desperation that Americans would feel for someone to represent them and represent them properly. And as I listened to Glenn Beck lamenting this, I remember thinking, so what? So fucking what? It's not the end of the world. It's not that big of a deal. And I just remember sitting there, and as I was looking for that clip, because I wanted to bring it to you to reference to, but I couldn't find it for the life of me, because it's hidden somewhere in the archives. I found another interview that Glenn Beck had with Anderson Cooper, where he laments to Anderson Cooper during Trump's election that he was lamenting that conservatives no longer have a home, that true conservatives are out in the dark. Well, he's eaten his hat since then, thank God. He's come to his senses, thank God. And the truth isn't that conservatives didn't have a home. That's completely bullshit. Conservatives have a home with Trump. The problem is that now that Trump has been elected and that the people have decided that Trump wanted to be their guy, the conservatives, the true conservatives, now have to bring politicians to the fore who act like Trump. And to address my wife's issue with the current status quo among the Democratic Party, with people like Ilhan Omar and AOC and Pelosi and all these other figureheads of the Democratic Party who are clearly out of touch with their constituents, the answer is because when Donald Trump arrived, we hadn't realized, but we were still in a political state where you voted for someone who was the paragon, someone who was an ideal above you, someone who represented something that you personally couldn't strive for but wanted to see in the country, someone who was a messiah of some sort, someone who had all of the appeal and the charisma and this otherworldliness that would bring about political change. And I'm sorry, but the election of Trump has revealed to us that that is a lie. And don't do it. Do not ever vote for anyone who you think is is living an ideal above you. The lesson we learned from Trump that we need to take away from Trump is we need to start electing people who we actually think are like us, flawed like us, dirty like us, messy like us. That's what we learned with Trump, and I hope that's the lesson we keep learning with Trump. This idea that we should be electing people who are above it all is frightening. It's frightening and dogmatic because it doesn't exist. We keep wanting to put people in charge of us who we think and feel and are told are better than us. Don't ever do that. That's a mistake. That's why we keep getting people acting against our interests when we vote them in to be for our interests. We keep voting in people on the basis that they live a higher morality and they live in a higher set of ideals. We need to start electing people like us and not look up to people that we elect. That's the mistake, is we wanted to elect people we could look up to and not have to have a second thought about. The secret to Trump's success in office and his charisma in politics is the expectation of his political purity is exceptionally low. And I know that's a shit way of putting it, but it's absolutely true. Expects Trump to be politically pure or have their back 100%. That's the secret to his success. And he didn't have to reach out to Democrats to do that. Trump just won the election by putting himself out there as Donald fucking Trump. And it worked. Against all odds, it fucking worked. And that's what brings me to the title of this video, is Carnal Politics and Trump. We need to encourage the conservatives to stop asking for their candidates to be politically pure. And not just politically pure, but, it's just not fun looking at a cookie-cutter candidate again. I can't go back to voting for another Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio or even Ted Cruz is a little too clean now. We need someone who we know are going to look the establishment in the face and say, fuck you. That's what we want, because it's what we would do. And that's what conservatives need to find, and it's the trajectory we need to continue on. Because if we go back to the old way of trying to find someone purer than us, we're going to get people who don't vote in our interests. We're not going to get people who are going to truly care about what their voters think of them, because they know that we voted them to be pure and they can use that as a shield to hide behind. No. Elect someone who's absolutely in the mud with you. That is your goal. That should be your absolute end game. Elect someone who's in the mud with you. We need to stop electing people who are career politicians, career lawyers, even career businessmen and women. It's not acceptable to vote on them based on those merits alone. One of the appeals of Donald Trump wasn't that he was a successful business tycoon. It was that he was, despite multiple divorces, a very successful father. That was part of Trump's appeal, is despite all of it, all of his wives loved him or spoke highly of him. His children adore him. He is clearly, as we can see on Twitter, raising them in his image. This is what brought us to Donald Trump, because we not only saw him as this successful billionaire, we saw him as a man. And it awoke in the American people a level of discernment I had not yet ever seen. Because the American people did not forgive Hillary for Benghazi. We didn't forgive her for her emails, but we forgave Donald Trump for saying that he grabbed him by the pussy. That is an amazing level of discernment from the American people, in deciding which offense was worthy of merit and which one wasn't. That's why we need to remember to not elect people who we feel are on a higher plane or that present being on a higher plane. When you go to the ballot box, you want to check for the politician who is in the mud with you. And that's my hope, that we learn from this and that we take from, and we need to learn from this victory. We need to learn from the victory of Trump and elect those politicians who are clearly in the mud with us. And they'll show it. They'll show it in their language. They'll show it in their posture. They won't act presidential. Acting presidential is come and gone. Acting presidential is a dead thing. We need men and women who act like mothers and fathers for the nation. And those are my thoughts on carnal politics and Trump, because as far as I can tell, if we do not continue the trend of embracing carnal politics in our conservative efforts, we're hosed. We're absolutely hosed. So these are my thoughts, guys. Again, stay carnal, and I'll see you next time. Bye.